Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Cinema Rogues. I'm your host, Andrew, and with me, as always, is our co-host, Guy.
Hi.
Hi. I guess
Made it.
We made it to another episode. You're in the current storm apocalypse happening right now outside your house.
That's true. You're in the dog apocalypse, so it all works out.
Yeah, we've both got apocalypses happening. Just some usual stuff. Go listen to my other show, Board Game Barbarians. If you like board games and you like barbarians, we sometimes talk about either of those. So check it out. And then you can also find Guy at Sidetail Studios on YouTube. I think you're saying you're gonna start recording some stuff again soon.
Yeah, I almost hit the stream button a couple of times this week.
Oh man, getting close.
Getting closer.
And then always check out our parent show, sister show, parent show, Retro Warriors. If you don't know who they are and you just found us organically, go check them out. They're a really cool retro video game podcast, and worth the listen for sure. Well, cool. Well, what you been watching recently?
I sat down and watched Soul with the kids.
Nice. That's a good movie.
It is a good movie. I understand now where the controversy came in.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like weighing in on it at all. Other than to say, I understand how putting a white person in the body of a black person could be problematic for some people.
Yep.
And that's perfectly understandable. But overall, I think it was a great movie with a great message, and it's one of those things that it's one of those movies that after you see it, you kind of reflect on life and what you're doing and how you can sort of appreciate more of what's going on around you. And I thought that was fantastic.
Yeah, I also enjoyed that movie. It was very delightful.
Delightful. Been watching more women's soccer. We're still working our way through the tournament.
Nice.
So it's the soccer is an hour and a half game. You're probably close to 2 hours of watching it. So, watching a soccer game is like watching a movie, so you can only get through so many in a week.
Right.
And then other than that, we've also been watching this show called Night Fight.
Okay.
I don't know. Have you heard of this show at all?
I've not. You're talking KNIGHT, not like Nighttime Fight.
Yeah, like KNIGHT. So it's apparently there's a armored fighting league. And I don't know who. Well, I do know who started it because he's a judge on the show,
Okay.
and I can't think of his name. But basically, it's a bunch of people like dressed in like real armor, with blunted weapons, so they're not like sharpened, but you're still like wailing on somebody with like a hand axe. It just doesn't have an edge on it.
That's nuts.
And basically, the format of the show is they get 6 people. They put them through like 3 rounds of 1 minute long fights. They decide who the best 3 are, and they go on to the next round. And then the other 3 have to fight it out to figure out who the best one is. Yeah, of those 3. And then they do a team fight, like 2-on-2 for 2 rounds of a minute. And then at the end, the winning team, they have to fight each other for 2 rounds of like 90 seconds. And they're just fucking wailing on each other constantly. Like you'll see somebody who's just like he'll run up there and like say like 2 people like engaged with each other, right? So you see they're paying attention to each other, and then the third person will run up with like I said, like a hand axe or a sword and just like fucking like wailing right in the back, right in the kidney, and you see it just like collapse on the floor, like oh
yeah. How do they judge that? Just like by how hard the hit is, or?
Yeah, it's basically who seems like they've been dishing out more than they've been taking, I guess.
Jeez.
Well,
that
fucking
sounds nuts.
brutal.
Where is that?
It's on the History Channel, I think.
Oh, okay. So I don't have access to that.
Probably not. I think we have access to it because we signed up for Hulu Plus a few months ago.
Okay. Well, I've been... I watched Greenland, which is the newest Gerard Butler disaster movie, and it was not good at all.
Is there like what's going on with Greenland? Why is Greenland a disaster movie?
I don't want to. I guess I could spoil it. Does anybody? I guess that, I can't ask. Does anyone care if I spoil this movie? Yeah. So I mean, Greenland has to do with the end of the movie, but basically, it's basically Deep Impact for the most part. A big asteroid's going to hit the planet, and they're trying to get to a safety bunker.
I'll give you a deep impact in a big asteroid.
All right. And it was not great. It was more like the human. Oh my God, my dog's going nuts. It's more of like the, I guess, human aspect of it and less of the disaster movie aspect of it. So that was disappointing. Like, nobody cares.
I was going to ask if it was like the Deep Impact to Deep Impact, like when people think of Deep Impact, they automatically think of, low rent Armageddon, basically.
Right.
So would you classify Greenland as like low rent Deep Impact?
Kind of, because they don't really, like, there's a couple, they don't really show the disaster for the most part. Like, there's like 2 or 3 shots where they show it something impacting the planet. Otherwise, it's just like, oh yeah, took out Florida. Like, that you just hear, like, they just tell you that it took out Florida, and they don't really show it. Like, at the end of the movie, they show the planet and all of the impact points, but like the rest of the movie, there's not really that in there. It was just disappointing.
Sounds like it.
Other than that, rewatching New Girl, that's a fantastic show. I highly recommend it to anybody that has not seen New Girl.
Yeah, I need to go back and finish that. I think we talked at one point that I got whatever season that Prince is in was the last season that I watched. I think they ended that season on a beach or some shit.
I think that's the last season or the second to the last season. No, that's the second to the last season. Last season's great, man. Unlike other shows where sometimes it like peters out at the end, last season's still strong. It's got some of my favorite jokes in there. Especially there's some mustache jokes.
Nice. Yeah, I'm afraid that like the Flash is going to go down that road. I don't think it's in our news, but the news hit this week that like 2 of the original cast members are done after this season, and I think they're on season 7 going into season 8. I'm like, you know what? Maybe just end it,
or just reboot it. Just start a new Flash show with all new characters.
I love Grant Gustin as the Flash. I think he makes a great Barry. I think it's a great. It was a great show. This season's been kind of meh, but
I mean, I'm just saying they could reboot the whole. I mean, especially if Warner Brothers got behind them and actually gave them money, it'd be nice to see like an actual like comic book reboot, but of their. What is the WB now? It's. Whatever.
The CW?
The CW, there we go. Like a CW reboot of all those shows would be pretty cool.
Yeah. It looks like, I mean, they just launched like Superman and Lois, so it looks like they're going to continue pumping out shows and shit. So we'll see.
Yeah. Other than that, I watched the 3rd season of a show called Formula One Drive to Survive, which is basically just a bunch of behind the scenes, just dramatic people being overly dramatic behind the scenes on Formula One.
Is it like current to the current season of Formula One?
It's current to the last season. So the one that I just watched was 2020.
Gotcha.
So because they filmed that season and then they edit it and then they put it out like after the season's over. So it's just all the behind the scenes drama of Formula One and all the drivers and the guys that run the teams and everything. So
are you into Formula One generally?
I can't watch a whole race just because it bores me, but I like the idea of it, and this show still shows bits of the race, but it shows all the interesting, exciting parts only.
Oh, nice.
And so that kind of like feeds my Formula One interest enough to watch it, and they don't really like... They kind of go into who won overall and all of that, but it's more of just like the drama behind the scenes.
Yeah, I know that like Austin has a Formula One race like on the circuit, and
Yep.
it's like one of the only Formula One races in North America every year.
It's the only one in America. I know that.
Yeah.
Um, Actually, I think it's the only one in North America. I don't think there's a Canadian Grand Prix. There might be. I don't know. I don't pay attention that much to it. I like car racing, but I don't like NASCAR because it's just going around in a circle. And I don't care to watch, like, Formula One exists, so why would I watch the stuff below it, like kart racing and all of that? If I can watch like the best cars and most expensive cars in the world, like duke it out, why would I care about anything else?
For sure. Yeah, I know. I have some friends that every so often will, like every 5 years or so, will go down or try to go down to Austin to watch the race. I don't know. It always seemed like an interesting idea, but I'm not like that into racing.
Yeah, my dad's super into it, and that's the only reason that I know it existed. But I've thought about, like, because actual race tickets, for one, are really expensive.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to just sit out in the sun for 2 or 3 hours or however long the races last. But I've thought about, like, because qualifying, like just buying the qualifying tickets where you can watch the qualifying runs,
Mm-hmm.
they're really cheap. They're like, I don't know, like $50 or like $30. Like, they're not expensive at all.
Oh wow.
I mean, that's not that compared. That is like expensive to some people, but compared to the actual tickets, where you're talking like hundreds of dollars to thousands of dollars for race tickets.
Oh yeah, for sure.
50,
Especially if you want a guaranteed seat.
Yeah, $50 to $100 to watch the cars qualify. You're still watching the cars do something. I've thought about like bringing my dad down here at one point and doing that, but COVID happened. So
maybe next year.
maybe. Why don't you take us away on the Marvel news you got in here?
All right. Marvel released a new sizzle reel for Phase 4, which was mostly like a
Did you
recap
watch
of the
it?
previous phases. What?
Did you watch it?
I did watch it.
You watched a trailer?
I watched a trailer. Marvel gets me, man. I can't stay away. I almost watched the Venom trailer today, in fact.
Yeah, that was in the news. They're in the news also. But I haven't watched that one either. I probably watched it after the show.
Nice. I
Should've
enjoyed the
watched
first one.
Before the show.
But yeah, no, they've got a new trailer that was more or less kind of a recap of Endgame and Infinity War.
Yeah.
And kind of highlighted some of the more emotional moments, I suppose. But buried within that, there was the new footage from the Eternals, which looked interesting. I mean, it's flashy, it's very teasery. There wasn't anything plot specific about it.
Right.
I think the biggest reveals were the new names of Captain Marvel 2 is officially called the Marvels. And that is Captain Marvel, Miss Marvel, and Monica Rambeau from whatever we just talked about, WandaVision.
Yeah.
Slash Captain Marvel 1, I guess. She was a little girl in that.
Yep.
And then Black Panther 2 is officially called Black Panther Wakanda Forever.
Nice. Yeah, I liked that trailer a lot. The Phase 4, it got me. I was excited.
Yeah, I'm pretty stoked about it. Oh, did you see, or did you put this in here, that they moved Loki up by a couple of days?
I did. So he's going to be on Wednesdays instead of Fridays.
Yeah. I saw some meme today that was like, when you realize that Friday is named after Frigga and Wednesday is named after Odin, and it's just a picture of like fucking Loki pouting.
Well, I guess we'll get through the rest of the news here. So apparently Seth Rogen refuses to work with James Franco because of abuse allegations that have come against Franco.
I saw that. He seemed to be kind of soft rolling it a couple of years ago, but the more that people ask about it, the more he's like, look, it's changed our relationship. I don't really talk to him as much, and I don't plan on working with him.
Yep. So that's kind of the duo that for the longest time just always worked together. it's kind of weird to see that they're not going to be working together anymore, which I, understand the reasoning for it, and it doesn't upset me in any way that they're not going to work together again. It's just kind of one of those things that has always been like a constant since the early 2000s or mid 2000s. So it's weird that it's not going to be there anymore.
Yeah, for sure. It's always the safe bet to sort of back away from people who are going through it until the full story comes out or doesn't come out, whatever the case may be. And if you are distancing yourself from a situation that can be perpetuating harm, then good.
Yep. Yeah. Dave Bautista is to step away as Drax after Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. So he will no longer be Drax the Destroyer.
Yeah, I saw a headline about that made it sound like he might be recast, or like he had said that he's growing too old for it. Did it say that he's actually like, no, I'm done?
I did not see what he said. No. The headline that I saw was like James Gunn's response or whatever about it.
Oh, okay. Well, good enough.
So I didn't see what Dave Bautista actually said. Also, Elon Musk hosted SNL. Did you watch that at all?
I did not. I don't like Elon Musk.
I mean, you don't have to like the guy. You don't have to like anybody, really.
I mean, I guess he came out on the show apparently and was like, "Hey, I'm autistic" or whatnot, which is fine. And
he said he had Asperger's.
Asperger's, that's what it was. Thank you. Which is fine, and it is perfectly. I don't know. There's nothing wrong with having Asperger's, and it takes some courage to stand up and say that, and to, especially as a prominent person who's a billionaire and doing what he can to further like science endeavors in space and shit like that, which is great. But I guess my problem with Elon Musk is that even if he has Asperger's, he's kind of also just an asshole, and like he's this billionaire that could be devoting resources to all sorts of like actually helpful things instead of building like space tourism.
Right. Yeah, I mean, he definitely could be doing something better, but I don't think he's necessarily the worst billionaire out there. But I also have no sympathy for anybody that hoards their wealth. So, yeah, he did all right. There were some funny parts. It was an okay show.
Yeah, my girlfriend watched it, and I watch bits and pieces of SNL as she watches them, but I haven't been like super into SNL in a long time, and
it's not been great.
Yeah, I don't know that it's necessarily less funny than it used to be, or how much of it we look back at nostalgia, or we remember like the really great bits within an episode. But I don't know.
I think that it has gone down because anytime John Mulaney hosts, he's writing most of those sketches because they're all freaking great every time he hosts, and then it goes back to not being great after that. So I think the writing's just gone down in the past 5 to 10 years. The Chad sketches are pretty great, which there's a new Chad sketch. Anyway. So we were going to do this episode on the Oscars, but we decided that we didn't want to do that because we don't care about the Oscars at all, just to be completely honest. So for anybody that was like waiting for us to do the Oscars because we said we would last episode, we went back on our word and we're doing Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Yeah, I think it came to about a week ago, and we're like, so do you really want to do the Oscars?
Yeah, it was painfully obvious that neither of us wanted to do the Oscars. I think also neither of us wanted to put in the work to like sit down and watch them. It was honestly kind of a pain for me to do the little bit of research that I did.
Right. Well, it comes down to like, what do you want the show to be, and do you want the show to be a critique of who got the awards, or do you want the show to be a summary of the broadcast? And neither of those sounded appealing.
Yeah. And we rather, we wanted the show to be about movies, and really, I guess it's become entertainment, TV show and movies, and not about awards. I mean, we kind of talk about awards a little bit, but we don't really care. Let me see here. Okay, so I guess we'll get into the little bit that we do have. We're going to just kind of fire these off. Nomadland won Best Picture.
Best Actor went to Anthony Hopkins for The Father.
Best Actress was taken by Frances McDormand for Nomadland.
Soul won Best Animated Feature.
Chloe Zhao won Best Director for Nomadland.
And Best Original Screenplay went to Promising Young Woman.
And that's about all I put into that.
See, if we had done a whole show, it would have been like a 10-minute show. We just read the winners, and that was it.
Yeah, that's all it would have been. I mean, that is kind of all it would have been, and that's the bad part is I didn't want the show to just be us, because we would have had to watch all of the movies, and none of them are, like 2 of them are available on streaming services, and I think one or two of them I actually wanted to watch, so I bought it when it was on sale. But I just don't want to pay $20 to rent $20 a piece to rent 5 movies is, more than our budget of $0 for the show. if we ever get back into theaters and Movie Pass and all that, then there's a higher likelihood we'll see more of those movies. Oh, for sure. Once we get kind of back into theaters, and I'm fully vaccinated now, so I can.
Me too.
Totally, yeah. So I'll feel more comfortable. I'll still wear a mask, but I'll feel more comfortable going to theaters again. Especially if they still do the Movie Pass. I'll probably go back again multiple times a month.
Yeah, dude, I assume that movie theaters will go back to doing things like that. I mean, at this point, they're renting out entire theaters for $100 a showing or $200.
Oh yeah,
a showing.
Just to try to get people in there.
Yeah,
it's nuts, man. Yeah, what a time we live in.
What a time to be alive.
What a time. All right.
Oh yeah, Moon Pie. What a time to be alive.
All right, we're going to get into the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So for a synopsis, 6 months after the Falcon was handed Captain America's shield, a terrorist organization run by super soldiers threatens the world. The Falcon and the Winter Soldier must track them down and stop their evil plot. The story is a lot, I didn't want to mention, deeper than that summary. And its evil plot is in quotations, but you can't see that when I say it.
I could see it. I could hear it when you said it that time.
Oh, evil plot.
An evil plot?
Evil plot, yeah.
I like that you were missing a period, so it looked just like that soldiers threatened the world, the Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Yeah. It threatened, well, technically they did threaten the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Well, it released March 19th to April 23rd of this year, 2021. Started in development in 2018. Marvel had decided that they wanted to create limited-run television shows for specific characters that had not had their own films. The show was announced in April of 2019. And the version of the show that we got was originally pitched and headed by Malcolm Spellman, who wanted to make the show more like a buddy cop movie like Rush Hour or Lethal Weapon, which I could totally see like those influences in the movie. I think less over the top, but still there.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed the dynamic between Bucky and Sam for that very reason. The way they interacted with each other, and it seemed like a lot of it was neither of them wanting to work together, but realizing they needed to.
Yeah.
It was great.
Yeah, it was a great dynamic. We'll go through do you want to do these one after another, or do you want me just to fire through them?
It's all you, buddy.
Alrighty, cool. So the director was Carrie Scoglin, and she directed all of the episodes. Writers were Malcolm Spellman, like I said before, Michael Keestelin, Derek Kolstad, Dolan Musan, and Joseph Sawyer. Anthony Mackie was the Falcon. Sebastian Stan was Bucky Barnes, Winter Soldier, and Aaron Kellyman was Carly Morgenthau, who was the leader of the quote-unquote terrorist group. I guess technically they are terrorist groups.
They did kill some folks.
They did kill some folks, and they did bomb a building, so yes, they are terrorists. Even if
it doesn't mean they were wrong.
Yeah, even if you're sympathetic to their cause. And then supporting roles, you got Wyatt Russell, Emily Van Camp, and Daniel Bruhl. Bruhl's Rules.
Damn it.
They haven't there've been no awards. I mean, the show's been barely out for, a month or two. There is an award that's for like MTV has like best duo and I think best actor for Anthony Mackie, but that hasn't, I think they've just been announced or not nominated for it.
Do you think MTV's movie awards still do things like best fight?
I hope so. They're the only ones that did it, so they have to keep it going.
Right. It seems like a very critical category.
Yeah. Rotten Tomatoes score, you have an 89 for the reviewers and a 72 for the average audience score. And then Metacritic, you've got a 74 Metascore and a 5.7 user score. So it kind of sounds like people didn't like it for some reason. And I don't understand why. What did you think of it?
I thought it was good. I liked it less than I liked WandaVision, but WandaVision was kind of off the charts good in my opinion.
Yeah.
But I enjoy that the Marvel shows seem to be tackling larger issues. We talked about WandaVision and its take on grief. This movie or this show specifically was taking on racism in a lot of respects. Although I don't think they ever used the word racism, which I kind of felt was a misstep, honestly, as directly as they were tackling it.
Yeah, I don't remember them ever using it.
But it's one of those things where Marvel movies are good for what they are, and you have different genres within Marvel movies. Like the second Captain America movie was more of a political espionage thriller kind of movie,
right?
Than it was like a traditional superhero movie, things of that nature. But largely the formula is the same, where it's you kind of know how it's going to go. It's not going to go too deep into anything, and it's going to be a fun adventure.
Right.
And they've been very successful, and there's nothing wrong with that formula, and I'm not at all tired of it. If they want to keep pumping out those movies, that are fairly easily consumable, then great. I'll go watch every single one of them. But I think this sort of longer format gives them a better way to tell the more intimate stories and the more complex relationships that these heroes do have to deal with in this world.
Right. Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I know Justin's very tired of Marvel movies, which I find just funny. Yeah, I agree with that. I would say it's a solid watch for me. I really liked the topics that I talked about: racism, income inequality, wealth distribution.
Yeah, we all know you like racism, Andrew.
Yeah, I liked racism. Is that what I said? I liked them talking about racism, the topic, and bringing it forward and how they approached it.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I feel like they did a good job overall. Would you suggest it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we talked about again last episode that Disney Plus at this point is well worth the investment. And if you're going to spend some time on Disney Plus, then yeah, absolutely go watch it. It's great. Yeah.
Yep, I'd say if you're a Marvel fan and you like buddy cop movies and have Disney Plus, definitely worth watching. And if you don't have Disney Plus, just do a free trial and watch this and WandaVision, and maybe wait until Loki comes out and do it all at once and just quit your job and watch all the shows. Maybe don't quit your job. Maybe just take a break.
Yeah, take a little vacation.
Take a day off. Take a couple days off, and watch the show. Well, cool. Well, I guess we're gonna get into spoiler territory.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. Let's talk about it. Spoiler zone.
Spoiler zone.
Bow, bow, bow.
All right, let's talk about it. Well, I guess we already mentioned that they get into the race dynamic, and I want to touch on that a little bit. Again, I suppose this show more so than Retro Warriors, we tend to dive into political topics a little bit more, and frankly, racism shouldn't be a political topic, right? It's a human rights topic. But it was interesting to see how they the idea of them putting the Captain America suit on a black man and what that means to people of color, what that means to Captain America as a whole, and how can somebody take on that mantle and take on that role of leadership,
right?
While still acknowledging and respecting all the things that are wrong with America from a racism standpoint, right?
Right.
And that's kind of what I was talking about earlier. How you can't do that in a movie. There's no way.
There's no way to get the point across over a 2-hour period.
Right. Exactly. And so you had the just the subplot of Isaiah Bradley, who, if you haven't read the Truth comic, I think it's called.
I have not.
I think I've got the first 4 issues, but that was right around when I stopped collecting the first time.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really good, and it starts out really well, and it's basically, I believe it takes place in the Vietnam era. And it draws on the inspiration of the Tuskegee experiments, where they experimented on black men in the army for they performed medical experiments on them without telling them, because they saw black people as disposable, basically. And so, to give an example, one of the experiments was they knowingly injected these men without telling them with full active syphilis cultures, just to see what it would do to their bodies and run experiments and shit.
And told them they were treating it and then didn't treat it.
Right. Like shit like that. So they used the writer of that comic used that sort of story as an inspiration to say, well, what would they do if they got their hands on a super serum in a similar era?
Yeah.
And so, in this, you're dealing with it in 2020. So you're looking back on it. But I really would recommend going and reading that comic, because it was really interesting. But to see that, they did, in the Marvel universe, they did create a black super soldier, but that wasn't, good enough for them to make him Captain America, even though at that time the original Captain America had been, presumed dead for 30 years or so.
Yeah.
And so, and it's just, and again, it's a fictionalized example, but it's one more example of how there's this, just insane double standard that shouldn't exist. And it was nice to see them dive into that. I think that one of the more overt references that they made was after they left Isaiah's house the first time. The cops stopped them and it was like, hey, we give us your ID, and they only said it to Sam,
Right. Bucky
and
was
Bucky,
with him, and they didn't say anything to Bucky.
yeah, and Bucky's like, come on, man, why don't you just give me your ID, and just like that amount of, I suppose ignorance is the right word, but
Yeah.
just not understanding what the big deal is when somebody is asking you unprompted for identification when you've done nothing to do that,
Right.
is a completely different thing when you're a person of color versus when you're a white person. At least in America, and I would assume in many other places. But it was neat to see them tackling that and to do it in a pretty respectful way. But as we touched on a little bit earlier, it's not perfect, right? And it's never gonna be perfect. But a couple of examples that I can think of are that they didn't overtly say this is racism, and I think there's power in that word, and there would have been power in acknowledging that, but maybe that was over their threshold. Who knows? So, and then on top of that, they killed Lamar, which on the surface isn't a bad thing, right? Like the idea of this lifelong friend of the new Captain America gets killed, and that's what sends him over the edge and really shows you the differences between John Walker and Steve Rogers, right?
Right.
But it becomes problematic when that person happens to be black. And so now you're just another media example, or another example in Western media where we've traumatized and killed a black person in order to motivate the actions of a white person. Like again, I can see why people would think it's problematic. Without me saying it's problematic, I can understand it.
Yeah.
Did you want to add anything to any of that? Kind of went off on a tangent.
I think you covered it pretty well. There's not really much that I can really add to it. I mean, other than that, I'm glad because in the comics, it's both the Falcon and Winter Soldier were Captain America for some time, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
At one point or another. And I'm glad. I'm actually really glad to see, for one, that the Falcon was chosen as the next Captain America, and that his costume is like basically the same as the comics.
Yeah. And I like that it wasn't an easy decision for him, I mean, the whole show really kicked off with him giving the shield back to the government and letting the government decide what to do.
Right.
Because he felt he basically had imposter syndrome, which I know we kind of all deal with, right?
Right.
This idea that we don't deserve the positions that we're in, even though, we've been working hard our entire lives to get where we're at. Your brain is mean, basically, and says, no, everybody's going to figure out that you're just faking it.
Yeah. And I like that the show basically was the full progression of him earning it for, like, I guess, proving it to himself, really, that he did deserve it.
Yeah, absolutely. Not only did he prove it to himself, but he also, his motivation for not wanting to be Captain America, like, kind of changed throughout it as he learned about Isaiah, as he sort of reflected on what it would mean to again carry the colors of a nation that never respected his people. But eventually came to say, no, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this my way, and I'm going to be a symbol of inspiration for everybody like me who thinks that they can be Captain America or whatever. I thought that was great.
Me too. I agree.
It would be nice if it came with a salary, though.
Right. Yeah, we'll get into that. I guess they do talk about the Avengers not making money. Right.
So there was this big plot point where Sam and his sister were going to have to sell their family boat that their parents had used to make their livelihood or whatnot. And part of it was, them going to the bank to try and get a loan, and Sam walking in all cocky, like, well, I'm the Falcon. Of course they're going to give me money. Like, they trust me.
Yeah.
And just, the idea, and that touched on income inequality and how race plays a factor into that. But again, I don't want to fucking belabor the point any more than I have. But it's also jarring to think that the people who have been responsible for saving the world over the past 5 years in universe, and longer, I suppose, don't have any, are doing it because they want to. They're not doing it for monetary compensation, even though they're like teammates with a billionaire.
You think he would set up some sort of salary or bonus situation for them. But I guess a lot of them, I mean, Sam works for the government, doesn't he?
He does.
So he would have a salary from the government. And I would assume that would be a little bit larger since he is operating equipment that no one else knows how to operate and going on secret missions.
I mean, you would think that, but I mean, the way that, the armed forces pays people is based on, rank and experience, and everybody kind of, it's one of the ultimate transparent salary situations. Like, whatever your pay rank is, that's what you're getting. But
what pay rank is Falcon? Is the Falcon rank? The Falcon
I guess that
rank
depends on if he's an officer or not.
Yeah, I guess so. They don't really go into that. You would assume that he is making something more than other people. I would hope, but they don't really talk about it. Other kind of economy talks is just the terrorist group, in general, just income inequality and being dispersed and being displaced.
Right. I mean, their whole thing was that they were, like after the blip, they kind of, people had to come together and become one human race, basically, to solve the problem of all of a sudden half their people are missing, or / dead, depending on your personal view of the matter, in universe.
Yeah.
So you've got to rebuild infrastructure. You have to just deal with insane amounts of grief, which is going to include ceremonies and I don't know, monuments and some semblance of trying to get back to normal. And through that, people moved around to where to, I suppose, community groups, where people needed to be. Like if you had a bunch of randos, in the say London countryside, what am I trying to say? English countryside.
Yeah.
And then half the people disappeared. In order for society to function, a lot of those people would necessarily need to migrate towards London. Right.
Right.
And then people were going wherever their jobs fit the skills, and where they were needed. And then when everybody came back, basically people were like, all right, let's put the old world order back in place. And I would think, again, in universe, rightfully so, a lot of people are like, well, but this is better. Why should we go back?
Yeah.
And I can't say that I disagree with any of them. I disagree with, blowing people up and killing
methods.
people.
Yeah. I mean, and that's kind of the whole point that Sam was making the entire movie is not disagreeing with their point of view and not disagreeing with what they're trying to say, but disagreeing with how they're trying to say it and what they're doing about it, which is blowing up buildings and killing people and intimidating people and trying to make more super soldiers.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And I think they ended up making like 4 total or so.
Yeah, and then you also had the new Captain America. Was it Wyatt Russell?
Yeah.
He took the serum.
He did take the serum. Wyatt Russell did a great job being a person that I hated.
Yep, he did a great job. And he turned into what, U.S. agent? Isn't that a guy from the comics too?
That is. John Walker in the comics is... I think he did spend a brief time as Captain America, but eventually was a U.S. agent.
Yeah.
And I assume from what I've been hearing that the there's likely to be a season 2, or at the very least a continuation of the stories that they have set up in season 1. They did change the title card at the end, so it said was it Captain America and the Winter Soldier?
Yeah.
But apparently that title card was news to the director, I believe.
I didn't hear that.
It was news to somebody. I don't remember if it was the writer or the director, but basically that title card wasn't supposed to be in there. It was just supposed to say Falcon and the Winter Soldier. But one of the Marvel execs decided that they wanted to change it. And whoever it was that it was a surprise to was kind of mad about it, because they thought that, by the end of the show that Bucky was no longer the Winter Soldier. He's fully into his sort of White Wolf persona.
So it'd be Captain America and Bucky Barnes.
Yeah, Captain America and Bucky Barnes, or Captain America and the White Wolf, or Captain Falcon and the Soldiers of the Future. That's fine too.
They did announce the fourth movie, that there is going to be a fourth Captain America movie with Sam as Captain America.
Oh, did they? I didn't see that.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. I didn't put that in the news.
Nice.
But they did make that announcement. That was ruined for me. So the day that came out, the day that the last episode launched, and I was on GameSpot, and GameSpot, like front of GameSpot, was like, new Captain America movie with Sam Wilson as Captain America, as Captain Falcon, and I was like, well, thanks for now. I know that happens in the show.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what they do with that. Like, are they gonna continue the story here? Is there going to be a second season in between? I mean, I guess we'll get more details as the future happens, but...
The future, yeah. What do you want to say about Sharon Carter?
That her twist was dumb and shitty.
Oh, her being the shadow broker or whatever?
Yeah, like, I mean...
It wasn't hard to see coming.
Sure, it wasn't hard to see coming. Mainly because there weren't any other suspects in the show, and dealing with the show and this sort of shadowy figure that eventually there was going to be a reveal. Right. But I'm just talking from the standpoint of, like, Sharon Carter, niece of Peggy Carter, one-time crush of Captain America, like Steve Rogers. Like, how is that person the power broker? Like,
power broker, that's what it is.
Yeah, it doesn't make any fucking sense to me that the Sharon Carter that we have seen on screen, and knowing how she has acted and felt about Steve, America in general, and how she reacted to Hydra when Hydra came out. Like, yeah, it was shitty that America didn't or considers her a fugitive, when she very, very clearly wasn't, and ultimately was justified in what she did, and she had to become resourceful or whatnot, and ended up in Madripoor. But the idea that now she is got her old job in intelligence back, if not a more senior position, and is about to start selling trade secrets to the highest bidder.
Yeah, like that was kind of
right.
I mean, I could see her becoming a bad person through everything that happened to her, and then of course, like, the blip happening, like, if everyone you knew basically was gone, that's going to change you in some way. So I mean, I can buy her becoming the power broker, but yeah, that was really shitty at the end. Her just like walking away, about to sell government secrets.
Yeah, and then like just fucking cold killing Carly.
Oh yeah, that was rough.
Yeah, like it's so out of character for what we have seen of her that it seemed like a twist for the sake of making a twist, because you quote unquote wouldn't expect it, right?
Yeah. I do want to say that Erin Kellyman did a great job as Carly. I'd never seen her in anything before.
Oh, yeah, she was fantastic. She put a a lot of soul into that role, I guess, is the best way I can say that.
Soul into the role.
Yeah, I had to make it rhyme, I guess. I don't know.
Well, cool. Do we want to talk about Bucky?
Yeah, let's talk some about Bucky. Like, Bucky is such a tragic character. I think one of the lines that stuck with me a lot was that when he was like, I spent my whole life fighting for the greater good, and I failed twice.
Yeah.
Like, Jesus Christ, dude. Like, that's when I don't know, I guess it hit me or I realized that Bucky has died twice already.
Yeah.
And
but still like living forever.
Yeah, he's still living forever, and he's walked away and made amends for having been the Winter Soldier. And like I said, the writer or the director or somebody is of the opinion that, by the end of the show, Bucky is no longer the Winter Soldier. He's left that behind and moving on with his life. And I think that's great for him as a character.
Yep, and I can definitely see that movement happening throughout the entire show. Also, just heartbreaking at the end when he has to tell his friend that he killed his son.
Yeah, that was I like the way that they did that, and I like the direction that they went. I was rooting for him to be understanding and for them to continue their friendship,
Right.
But I also like the way that they did it. I think having Bucky walk away from that friendship and kind of check in on him for half a second to make sure that he was okay, I think it was a good way to do it.
Yeah, definitely agree.
I thought it was really funny when they were having that fight scene in the hotel with the Wakandans,
Mm-hmm.
And then what's her face, the lead Wakandan guard, like basically like taps him on the shoulder and his arm falls off and he just stops. Like, I don't know if he stopped because he was confused or if it was part of them like deactivating his arm, but he just immediately freezes in place.
I feel like he just stopped because he no longer had an arm anymore.
Well, fuck me, I guess.
And I guess finally we'll talk about Zemo.
I fucking love Zemo.
Yeah, Zemo is great. I don't know why they kept him around so long, because he just kept like fucking everything up for him. I know they tried to justify like, oh, we need him because he's got information that we need and he knows people, but he just keeps like screwing him over at every chance that he can.
Dude, Zemo's so funny though, because like, again, on the surface, I don't disagree with him. Like, having super soldiers existing and kind of the entire point of why they, needed the Sokovia Accords and shit, like makes sense.
Right.
The escalation of violence and powers is a cycle that you're never going to get away from, once that genie is out of the bottle. And so having him super motivated to track down and destroy the serum and eventually at the end, he has his butler like blow up the 3 remaining super soldiers.
Oh yeah.
It makes sense of why he's doing that. He's so charismatic, and it's so weird. It's so weird to see when he spent most of Captain America: Civil War just being sort of a random bad guy with a bone to grind.
Yeah, I also like that actor a lot. It's Daniel Bruhl, that played Zemo, and I think he did a great job. Obviously, in the first, what was he in? Civil War.
Yeah, where
he first shows up. Yeah, did a great job there. Did a great job here, and I also liked him in Inglourious Basterds. That's also a great performance. Always a good performance from him.
I enjoyed that part where he tried to activate Bucky.
Oh yeah, just to see if he could.
Yeah, he's just a dick for no reason, and it's funny to me.
I had to try. It's weird that he didn't end up in like a Wakandan prison.
Yeah, it's kind of weird that they took him to the raft rather than back to Wakanda. But maybe, I don't know, maybe they didn't have a budget for Wakanda. Who knows?
Yeah, they didn't want to shell out the cash for that CG.
Right, and they didn't want to be like, oh, here, we're locking up one of the most dangerous men in the world. Wait, where's T'Challa, though?
Yeah. Well, cool. I don't really have anything else to say about it. Did you have anything else you wanted to talk about?
No, I guess as far as final thoughts go, I thought the show was really well put together. I mean, it's short. I think it's 6 episodes, right?
Yeah, it's 6 episodes.
But they were an hour long each.
And they're good episodes.
They are. They're really good. I think there are a few problems with a couple of things that I had. Specifically with Sharon Carter. I think that was the thing that stood out the most to me that I didn't like at all.
Yeah.
But I think they swung big. They tried to tackle some big issues, and they mostly succeeded at doing that. So, good on them. I thought. Oh, I guess one last thing. I thought Sam's speech when he finally when he confronted the senators or whoever it was that were making the decisions about resettlement. I thought his speech there was great. I think it's very applicable to things that are going on in today's world. And I think there are things that needed to be said. I just kind of wish they would be said in real life too.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's going to change anything in real life, even though I would hope that if somebody, like an actual senator, watched this, that they would try to think about it, but they're still only going to think about their own personal agenda. So who cares? The world's dying. Everything's terrible.
Hope. That's what we come here for.
Yep. Well, you can watch it on Disney Plus, as we said earlier in the show. And Guy, why don't you tell us what our next episode is going to be on?
We are going to watch Terminator Dark Fate.
Oh, boy.
Which should be fun because I just learned that Andrew's never seen a Terminator movie from nuts.
I've seen Terminator Salvation all the way through.
Right. Okay. When I say a Terminator movie, I mean one of the 2 good ones. Okay.
Okay. So the 3rd one and...
Yeah.
Dark
the 3rd
Fate.
one and the 4th one that you watched. Yeah. Gross. Yeah, no, that's I've wanted to watch the movie. Like, I've seen all the Terminator movies. I've been watching them since I was a kid, and it's just like a guilty pleasure of mine to watch them and watch how bad they are. But I always they're always entertaining to me, even if their internal logic makes no sense.
Yep. I agree, but I don't know what I'm talking about. So all I remember from Terminator Salvation was making the joke that because all the Terminators are from San Francisco, therefore they have to run on the San Francisco treat, which is rice-a-roni. And so we just kept imagining Terminators like shoving boxes of dry rice-a-roni in their mouths and like just chomping them up for for sustenance.
That's awesome.
Riding trolleys down the street.
Did they have to like rip open the little like packets too and just like?
Yeah, I imagine some would do that. Some would just shove the entire box in their mouth. I think that would also work.
They got like little grinders in the back of their throat just for that.
just for the box. Yep. Well, great. Well, thanks everyone for listening, and we will see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.